Hi, this is Misha, and this is another video and yet another odd Japanese Navy rifle. Now, we've already done a video on the Type 1, Type I, Arisaka Carcano. We've done another on the Type 99 Special Navy Special. And now this is the so-called Type 0245. And I say so-called, but I'll explain why in just a minute. These were assembled extremely late in World War II, definitely in 1945, probably the spring and maybe early summer. And they weren't really built. They were truly just assembled from leftover Type 35 barreled actions. Now, the Type 35 is featured in a few of our other different videos, so I don't want to really go into much detail, but here it is here. This is an original. The Type 35 is an interesting gun. It was an interim step between the original Arisaka Type 30 and the Type 38, which was an update done by Kaijiro Nambu. 35 came in between. It was still an Arisaka in principle, but it had a few updates that Nambu introduced. It had this manual dust cover. It had a new pattern of rear sight. Still used an Arisaka bolt, but it had an enlarged safety gash shield here on the side. And about 10,000 of these were made between 1902 and 1904, 1905 for the Japanese Navy. So it was a naval gun. The Army never went to the Type 35. This still fired 6.5 millimeter Arisaka, 6.550 semi-rimmed. And we've got a full length 31-inch barrel. So an interesting gun, but very short-lived. As the Type 38 was adopted, those Type 35s, either in poor shape with busted stocks, were stripped down to receiver barrel actions, or guns that were incomplete at the Tokyo Arsenal, just that were at the barreled action stage. All this was put into storage, which is where this rifle, the Type 0245, comes from. In 1945, the Japanese Navy primarily, but really everyone in Japan at the time, was needing any gun they could get. So they pulled the old Type 35 actions out of storage, and they assembled them with essentially whatever they could get their hands on. So there's a number of variations to this model, a wide range. For example, this one is in a Type 30 stock, which is original. They used some Type 30 stocks which were left over that they had, but many were built up into training, Arisaka training rifle stocks. Likewise, they have a lot of cast iron parts on them. Namely, this rear sight is off a trainer. Oftentimes you'll find very simplified barrel bands. Still has a bayonet lug, still takes a cleaning rod. Oddly enough, a lot of these came out with the front sight put on backwards. It was pinned on backwards. Do not ask me why. This one is not. This one's straight, but a lot of these are put on backwards. This still fires 6.5 Arisaka, of course, because we're essentially a Type 35 action here. This does not have grooves cut into the receiver for the dust cover. Some will. Many don't. There we go. Many don't. Just kind of go half Scottish on you for this last video, huh? Oh, that'd be fun. Gun reviews done by Montgomery Scott. Anyone in favor, let me know. Some will have this smooth barrel. Most do. But a few were built with machine gun training barrels, which will have fluting. The bolt is the same as on a Type 35. So on and so forth. Mostly just interesting for what they are. They would assemble approximately 1,500 of these in the last few months of the war. And these either went to the Japanese Navy or stayed on the home islands and never really did much. There's your safety. Sing sing. This uses the separate rotating bolt head and extractor and all of that of the Type 30, Type 35 pattern. I actually received this rifle many years ago from a gentleman. He was on Gunbroker selling this gun, and he had an NR rating, and you know how it is to buy from an NR seller. So I asked him if he would call me, and he called me up and seemed like a legitimate guy, and bought the gun, got the gun, no problems. We ended up becoming friends. I've even been over to see him, and we've done a lot of business. I've helped him sell off his collection in years past, and picked up a few of my better guns from him as well. And just, it was a neat, I met this nice guy through this gun. So kind of a neat story. That's why I've hung on to this 0245 while I've had others come through my hands and sell them along. This one has some sentimental value. The last thing I can comment on is the name itself. Type 0245 is a name that American Japanese collectors have given this gun. The 02 comes from the year 1902 for 1935, and 45 comes from 1945, the year these were assembled. The name is logical, but it's not a Japanese name. The Japanese themselves never really gave it a designation. With only 1,500 built at the end of the war, I guess there wasn't much of a need. If we were going to kind of use a Japanese naming convention, though, substitute Type 35 would probably be the closest thing we could come up with. So, you know, Type 0245 is what these are known as, but I still think that a substitute 35 is a closer name to Japanese, but officially these really never got a designation. But yeah, just one more late issue Navy gun. Not much left to say about them. You find these, a lot of times they're in very good condition. Even if the parts, like this one's built in the Type 30 stock, has some wear because it was an original stock that was repurposed for these guns. But definitely an interesting part. You know, as this is still firing 6.5 mil when most of the guns made in 1945 were firing 7.7. So that's kind of unique. Also, this being a long rifle versus a short rifle. But yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit more and share this. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you like the video, please click like. If you like Japanese guns, we have quite a long playlist, so check that out. And if you haven't already subscribed and would like to do so, we'd really appreciate it. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.